Hello everyone, welcome. In this video, let's learn about this attachment to the corner enclosure. This attachment is actually a pretty bad way to approach the corner enclosure or to invade the corner enclosure, right? So if you invade, then you take the corner territory. And this is where black can turn the corner territory and exchange it for influence on the outside very effectively. So the only viable move for black in this situation is to play on the outside. So we'll talk about the wrong move, which is to play the 3-3 point, the hane from the inside, but white will gain an advantage. So let's look at this attachment. What does it mean? Of course, it's giving black the choice of either allowing white to play on the upper side or come into the corner, right? Something like this. And in this situation, black should allow white to live in the corner, right? So after number 2, white will have to come into the corner this way or this way. White cannot think about the upper side because this way, white will most likely have to crawl on the second line, right? So number 3 on the second line, this is not viable. So white must play here. Now black needs to be a little careful, right? You cannot block on this side. That would be the equivalent of white coming in and black blocking on the wrong side, right? So black stands down here, right? This is really threatening to play at the 2-1 point, b19 here, to reduce white's ice space. So this is rather harsh. And in this situation, many situations, depending on situation on the outside, white will get to this move, right? If black tries to kill white, then what happens is that if white cannot capture black on the ladder here, right? If this ladder works in black's favor, then number 7 is probably not even playable, actually. But if it does work in white's favor, then black might be in trouble, right? These 2 stones might have a hard time escaping. But I think the way to solve number 1 for black really is just to allow white to live in the corner, right? White still owes a move here. You cannot play away. If you play away, again, this is not enough ice space. Not enough ice space for white. Right? So white still owes a move here. So black gets this very nice wall on the outside. This cutting point is almost non-existent, right? Well, black is really not afraid of this cut. Even if you cannot capture it on the ladder, this is very bad way for white to try to start a fight. I mean, you can play the net, right? So here's the net. So this basically doesn't exist. It's a very strong wall in sente. And this is very good for black. Very good for black. So I think that's the idea. You get it, right? If white doesn't even have the ladder in its favor, it can only live this way, right? Similarly, this is great for black. There are some other variations. If white plays here, once again, do not try to fight, right? You don't have to fight. If you're interested, of course, you can explore on your own what happens after this, but under most circumstances, there is no need for black to fight. And similarly, something like this, or black can play this exchange first, and then white will live this way. Again, this would be really, really great for black to enclose white into a relatively small corner in sente. This shape for black on the outside is just really solid, right? Because none of these black stones is short on liberties. And the shape is very, very efficient, very, very strong. So I think that's number 2. I think I've covered most of the variations. And if you ask AI, what should white do in this situation? It has a radical solution, and that is surprisingly, AI is saying this is better than all the variations we just saw. Very surprising, right? Because you thought maybe it's better for white to live in a corner and give black a wall. Now white is sacrificing the corner, right? Number one is already gone. And all you have is 3 white stones on the outside. And now AI is saying white should take Sente, play elsewhere. So the shape is essentially broken for white on the outside, right? But AI is still saying this is better than giving black the wall. So you can imagine just how bad giving black the wall right after number 2 is for whites. And that is why this attachment really does not exist. It's a bad move. It's a bad move. But is it playable for beginners and Q players, right? That's the question we always need to answer here on my channel. Again, yes, right? Yes. Even if you give your opponent a good wall on the outside, it's still playable. You're just about 4 or 5 points behind. You can still gain it back, but you're not going to see this in professional games or any serious high-level amateur games, right? Number 1 does not exist. And the thing for beginners and Q players to know here is that playing on the inside is the wrong move, right? So you have to play on the outside and allow white to live, right? So this is really kind of forcing you to exchange the corner territory for influence on the outside. If you're not very good at using influence as a beginner, as a Q player, then maybe your opponent gives you this chance, that it's a good chance to practice, I would say, right? If you play on the inside, then once again, we talked about this a little bit when we first talked about the 2-5 invasion with number 2 and number 3, this wedge. We talked about black has to cut on the outside and try to capture number 3 and 5 instead of playing at the 3-3 point, right? So you're pressed to the 3rd line here, and white will continue playing on the outside. So this is a good shape for white, and white has effectively reduced black's potential territory here in the corner. So if black responds this way, then this is very similar, right? If you want to guard the corner territory with number 4, which is the correct move, right? After the incorrect move, after the wrong move here in number 2. So it is the correct move, but once again, white will be able to build a base on the upper side very comfortably, very, very comfortably. And if black plays a pincer, then white can play the Atari and play a small knight's move and extend toward the center, something like this, right? These are all okay, depending on the situation. And is white afraid of this cut? Not really. Even if this ladder doesn't work, white can just give up this stone and still play on the outside, right? So this is not great for black to be on the 3rd line here, or to give white such a nice base, right? If you've seen some of these videos, we've solved different bases, right, for white, and this is one of the best that we've seen so far. So black cannot be happy about this. So that's why number 4 can also be here. What happens now is that white can come into the corner, right? White can come into the corner, and this is not that easy for black to defend. If you play here, now this is also threatening to cut here eventually, and to make more eye space here, right? So be something like this, white will be alive, right? So white can come into the corner and make a living shape, and that is why number 4 here. So this enclosure, right? You're enclosing white. White is already alive on the corner, and obviously there's this cut, right, which could be a headache. So this wall, right, is not as good as the wall that we just saw with number 2 playing the Hane on the outside. So locally, is this alive? The answer is yes, right? So black owes a move here. It is 2 points, but white has Sente, right? That's what's really important here. After this enclosure, white has sente, and white can be happy about this. Black can also consider this move. Once again, white should extend to the corner. Right? If you play here, then this exchange is pretty good for black. Right? Compare this with this. So this pattern is clearly better for white. So black has really pressed white down in this situation. So that's why, again, white needs to try to come into the corner. Black will likely play on top, either here or here, maybe even here or here. Very similar. The idea is for white. White can actually afford to crawl here for a little bit and then take sente. Right? So white is already alive and white has sente. So this is playable for both sides, slightly better for white in this situation, even though white has to crawl on the second line. So why doesn't black play the double hane here? If you play the double hane, of course, white will have to connect here. White cannot give up the whole corner. This is not okay. The corner is too big. So white will have to connect here. Black can extend on the outside, so number 9 most likely still has aji. And white can capture number 2 this way. Right? White is going to win this race to capture. And the corner is actually pretty robust. And number 9 is not completely dead. Even if the ladder works for black, right? White can play something farther away to threaten to come out. So black eventually will own another move here. So when white gets sente, right after number 2, all these variations will slightly favor white. And that is why number 2 is the wrong move here. Right? So that gives you a sense of what happens when white plays at number 1. Right? There is only one correct move, and that is to allow white to come into the corner. And you might ask, right, one last thing, you might ask, is this the case when we already have, say, a stone on the outside? Isn't it a good idea, right, to try to attack it? Something like this, or this. Now this seems like a good pincer, right? Shouldn't this favor black? And the answer is actually no, right? Because there's a flip side. Because if you keep white on the inside and get sente, then this stone works just as fine, right? This is also working really well with the wall, right? So even if you have a stone here, it is better under most circumstances for black to allow white to live in the corner after the attachment and take sente, take the initiative to play elsewhere. So I think that's a key lesson, right? It is a theme that I have alluded to, and we've seen some examples already, I think. And I think this is the best example of how black can turn the corner territory into something even better, right? And black has a clear advantage after this variation. Not really a Joseki, because Josekis are supposed to be more or less equal, but this is not equal. This is better for black. So that's it for this lesson. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Good luck, and thank you for watching.